Some of you might be familiar with David Novak. He used to be the CEO of Yum Brands. And at the time, it was one of the world's largest organizations. They had 1.5 million employees. This is the parent company behind brands like KFC, Pizza Hut, and many, many others. So massive, massive organization. And David and I were talking. He's one of the CEOs that I've interviewed. I've had him on my podcast before. And I asked him about what was the most impactful moment during your leadership career. What one moment really changed who you are as a leader and altered your outlook on what leadership means to you? And he shared this really powerful story with me about how one time he was in St. Louis. And at the time, he was working for the Coca-Cola company. And he was in a little bit over his head, and he knew it, but he was in an executive role in operations. And so he goes to St. Louis, and he brings together a team of all the best merchandisers. It was around 12 or so people. And he puts everybody in a conference room, and he says, okay, I'm here to learn as much as I can from all of you. Why don't all of you in this room tell me who's the best merchandiser that we have? Who's the one that customers look up to? Who's the one that all of you in this room, who do you turn to for help? Who's the best merchandiser we have? And so one by one, everybody went around the room and they said, oh, you got to talk to Bob. Somebody said, I've learned more from Bob in 3 days than I have in 3 years being here. Somebody else said, you should hear how Bob handles customers. Somebody else said, I love Bob. He's always helping me out when I need help. And so one by one, everybody says these really amazing things about Bob. And then David Novak looks down the edge of the table and he sees Bob is sitting there and Bob is just crying uncontrollably. And David is super confused and he goes over to Bob and he's like, man, what's going on? Everybody's saying all these wonderful and amazing things about you. Why are you so upset? Why are you sitting here crying? And Bob looks at David and he says, I've been at this company for 47 years, almost half a century. And I never knew that anybody at this company ever felt that way about me. Can you imagine giving almost 50 years of your life to an organization and never feeling that you've been recognized, never feeling that you've been appreciated, never hearing from one of your coworkers or your peers how much of an impact that you've made on them? Half a century. This guy devoted his entire adult working life to being a part of this organization, and not once has anybody ever told him that he's valued and appreciated and how much of an impact he makes on the company and on the lives of employees that are there. And David told me that when he heard that from Bob, he literally felt like he was punched in the stomach. He felt like a ton of bricks were just thrown at him. And he decided from that moment on, he was never going to be a part of an organization where his employees didn't feel like they were recognized and rewarded and appreciated for the work that they were doing. And so what he did, when he became the president of Pizza Hut, he started giving out these big cheese hats. And you can see one of the cheese hats on the desk there. And whenever an employee would do something that warranted recognition, he would give an employee this huge cheese hat. He would number the cheese hat. He would take a picture with himself and the employee, and he would hang that picture on his wall. And again, you could see those pictures in this photo here. And he would give the employee a gift card. And he created these own recognition awards. He didn't ask for anybody's approval. He didn't go to HR and say, hey, can I recognize and reward my people? He just started doing it. When he became the president of KFC, he did the same thing. When an employee did something to get rewarded, he would give them a rubber chicken because KFC chicken. And he would number it. He would take a picture with himself and the employee. He would give the employee a gift card because, you can't eat a rubber chicken. And when he became the CEO of Yum Brands, again, he did the same thing, but he used these wind-up teeth. And again, you can see those wind-up teeth sitting on his desk there. And this became very fascinating because, as I mentioned, he didn't ask for anybody's approval. He didn't go to HR. He didn't go to his peers. He didn't go to his team. He said, I am just going to recognize my people, myself. And the really cool thing is that this created a culture inside of his organizations where all of the other leaders were like, hey, wait a minute. What's David doing? He's got these really cool awards. Like, we should have a recognition award. And so leaders started to create their own recognition awards. One leader would give employees a boxing glove for a knockout performance. And it created this culture of recognition where everybody across the board, regardless of their seniority level, started recognizing and appreciating and valuing everybody around them. And so even for you, even if you're not a top executive, even if you're not the CEO of the organization, you too have the power to recognize and reward and appreciate your employees. And I want you to think about, how many Bobs do you think you have working for you right now? How many Bobs do you think might be at State Farm? How many Bobs do you think might be on your team who don't feel like they are being appreciated or valued? And how easy is it for you to just go to those employees and say, hey, you know what? I just wanted to say thank you for the work that you're doing. I really appreciate it. I know how hard you work here, and you're just a really meaningful part of this team. Barely any effort, but the impact is going to be absolutely massive.